trying to get this stuff down with right now I have YouTube up, I have TikTok up, and in today's video it's going to be a short one, so don't worry about me having one of my long version videos here. We're going to talk about the benefits of having a set aside of a judgment that you may have received from a debt collector mainly, but also from a debt collector. It's very beneficial if you to get a set aside uh, uh, against a set aside of your judgment if you're dealing with a debt collector. And I had a very good question from a YouTube subscriber who was asking. He said, like, what would be the benefit of having your judgment set aside? And I said, well, it's a number of uh, there's a number of answers pertaining to the individual situation. So I'm just gonna kind of walk it down first with why you might want to do it if you have a judgment from a debt collector or even an original creditor, but it's mainly focused on if you have a judgment with an original creditor. So I'm sorry, with a debt collector. So most of the cases that we assist people with, they did not show up to court. So they would have a default judgment, didn't show up to court. And so, and then they're all of a sudden they're going to have a potential garnishment of their wages or freezing their bank account or having an outright bank levy where they're just going to take the money right out of their bank account. And you should get notification of that. You don't want to wake up in the morning and your money is taken out your bank account. You'll get an alert letter from your job if you have a garnishment that's going to come out. But man, it is crazy with the emails that I get when people wake up in the morning and their money was gone out of their bank account. I had a recent YouTube subscriber, $6,000 gone right out of their bank account. And so and just being upfront, and we got to all be honest when people are getting sued in court, and I've had this in my early years, is that we got to be upfront. You usually know. So I admit some people may not know, but you usually know if you have a debt collector that's going to take you to court. You'll get that summons. But let's just say you didn't you didn't show up to court and you get a judgment against you, and you know the potential outcome is bank levy, garnishment of your wages, or they could freeze your bank account to go back into court to try to get a certain amount of the money out of your account. You can immediately, and I tell people immediately do this, is go to your court clerk and you get the documents for your area. I wish it was the same in every area. The law is the same, but the way that they want people to present the information and to get their day back in court by setting aside the judgment, that can be different in every area. So you immediately go to your court clerk, you ask them what is the documentation that you got to present to get the judgment set aside. And that way you will be able to perhaps renegotiate, or also just had the opportunity to defend yourself. There's been a lot of people who got default judgments, and there was a recent report done by the ACLU where almost 98% of the judgments that were put in place were from default judgments where people didn't even go into court and they didn't know their rights. And then other times where even when people showed up to court, they didn't know their rights and they ended up getting a default judgment. And then they become aware later that of information that could benefit them to either win their case or to put them into a better position to settle their case without having the debt collector go into their bank account or garnish their wages. And yes, you can lose a court case and still be able to negotiate a settlement and have that court case withdrawn, or just be able to have a payment arrangement that you can afford. So back to the subject of the reason why you want to the benefits of having a set aside, uh, to get your judgment set aside, is to go back into court, to be able to negotiate a better arrangement, to be able to defend yourself, to be able to get a portion of your funds if they've frozen your bank account. That opens up that opportunity for you to be able to do that. Now, there are some other situations I want to bring up. I wish that there was a way that we could show everything on TikTok. The could show, screen shares and stuff. Maybe in the future that'll happen. Let me just open up here. So here's the process. You lose a judgment either from an original creditor or a debt collector. In best cases is from, and this is here. Forgive me if I'm getting a little off step here, because I'm seeing stuff from here on TikTok and stuff on YouTube, and I'll get to some questions in a second. But the reason why one of the biggest things that can benefit you, even if you have an original creditor who you're going to have to pay that money, is that having that judgment set aside is going to put you into the position to be able to renegotiate maybe a settlement for a discount, or just to be able to get in there to express your hardship so you can get a better arrangement, better than the 25% that they're going to be able to take. And if you live in a state where they can't garnish your wages, in those states, they can garnish your bank account. They can freeze your bank account and get a writ of garnishment of your bank account and take the money straight out of your bank account. So here, just in case you came late to the video, this video is about what would be the benefit of getting your judgment set aside. The benefit is to, number one, if you had a default judgment where you did not show up to court, for whatever reason you did not show up to court, you can petition to get that judgment set aside so you can have the opportunity, number one, if you want to defend yourself in court against the court summons, you want to defend yourself against that case, or you want to be able to get your account, be able to get access to your money, and also to stop the garnishment of your wages. This is the way that you're able to do it. Let's see here. Assistance is better. Yeah. And then the other part is, and this is usually comes into with the cases where individuals are being sued by the original creditor. It can open up the door to be able to get back into court with the judge and the plaintiff, to where you can talk, express your hardship about what you're going through, and you can either negotiate a very good settlement, discounted settlement for a lump sum, or you're able to negotiate a payment arrangement that you'll be able to afford. And something that some people do not know about is that you can actually get a discount on payments. One of the things that I've done, and what I've had people in my employees in my office do, is I just said, let's try it. Let's just see what would the creditors say if the individual was not able to pay the full amount on a judgment that they lost. Like, there's just no other option; they're going to get the money, and we want to renegotiate a payment arrangement. Would they even give a discount on that payment arrangement? And we were surprised that some of the creditors would go ahead and give a discount. So say, for instance, a individual owed, $10,000, and we would say, well, they can't afford to do a lump sum, but would you be open? And sorry, I got calls and stuff coming in here. I don't know how to do this here on TikTok yet. But say that you have a payment arrangement. You could get a payment arrangement and get a discount on the settlement. So you owe $10,000. Maybe it could be negotiated down to $8,000. with payment arrangements. Like we've actually been able to do that, and it varies depending on the creditor. It varies depending on the what they want to do. But going back into court, expressing your hardship opens up the doors to a lot of potential opportunities to settle for less, to also be able to get a better arrangement uh, with your payment instead of having them garnishing your bank account or getting 25%. And also, especially when it comes to third party debt collectors, it gives you the ability to fight the case. And that's something that we specialize in here at the Credit Repair Shop, is that if you have a third party debt collector suing you, you have an opportunity to win those cases. And a lot of people lose those cases solely because they do not know their rights on what the debt collector is required to provide in those cases. And that brings up the other answer that I gave the individual that had asked that question on YouTube, is that when you could go to court and not know certain things about your case, and then all of a sudden you become aware. Like I just had a client yesterday became aware that the debt collector is suing her for debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Imagine that. So according to the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, debts that are past the legal statute of limitations in every state has a different statute. Some states are the same, but if a debt crosses that specific date, so let's just say you have a 3-year statute of limitations in your state to collect on a debt. That debt collector took you to court, and they're not even allowed to do that, but you become aware later that that debt was past the legal statute of limitations to collect. You petition to have that judgment set aside, and then now you have new information to present to the court that you should never have even been sued, that debt collector is in violation, because the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act states that any debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect, and it's different for every state, but if it's for your state, if it's past that date, they cannot take you to court. They can call you all they want. They can call you. And there's rules on how many times they can call you per week, but there are no legal remedies for them. But people don't know this, and then all of a sudden they get sued, they're getting garnished, and they didn't even know. And then if you just know that rule right there, that's in the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you could get your case reopened and then win your case and get all of the money back. We've had cases where people got all of their money back. They have been paying on a garnishment, and they're like, I watched one of your videos and found out that, and looked at my credit reports and found out that this debt was past the legal statute of limitations to collect. That means that they have no legal remedy. No legal remedy. They cannot take you to court to sue you to get the money. They can call you. You can have a moral obligation. That stuff, they can do all of that stuff, but they cannot take you to court. That information used was able to get the court case overturned and get their money back, all of the money back that they paid in that garnishment, all of it back. Now, for statute of limitations, this is what you need to look at. It's from the last payment date. The last payment date that you made. You can look on your credit reports. The account was charged off. Just because the account was charged off does not mean that you don't owe the money. So when that account is charged off, that's just putting it into the non-performing accounts books of their accounting. But that last payment date, that's when the clock starts to tick for the statute of limitations. And if you find that you were sued by a debt collector, that the debt was past that legal statute of limitations from that last payment, even from an original creditor, they're not allowed to do that. So if you have a judgment and you go back and look at your records, you could potentially get your case reopened. And that's the potential is based on the time frame that your state allows you to be able to appeal your case. Something else that comes to mind on documents that are supplied during your court case, because a lot of people say, well, uh, how am I going to be able to get my case overturned even if I get the set aside and there's no statute of limitations issues, and I'm just going to end up right back where I started off at. Well, you're not going to end up right back where you started off at with a bare minimum of being able to be in front of the judge and express your hardship and then have a sit down with the plaintiff attorney. So that's like bottom line benefit where you can renegotiate things. But some of the other things that you can request from your case, because I see this, I just got 3 of them yesterday where they didn't even give the bill of sale. No documentation about how this debt collector got the debt. So they can't just walk up on the street, just walk up to you and say, you owe this, and here's a statement that we got that's redacted, doesn't show your account number. There's people out there making fake W-2s and stuff to get loans. Not to say that a debt collector would do it, but they have to give you all of the information to prove that the debt is yours. And it's more than just a debt validation. It goes with documents. It goes with a certificate of conformity from that certified affidavit saying that the documents that they got from the original creditor that was transferred over to them, that all of those documents are 100% accurate. And then they have to get a bill of sale, and this is something that I see even with the bill of sale, has to say that their name has to be on there, but also what it has to also show that you were part of that portfolio. If you read these documents, you will see, and I'm paying a lot of attention to the TikTok over here, YouTube, I'm here for you also. On those documents, on that bill of sale, it has to show how they got that debt, and it's going to be a portfolio. And on that portfolio, it has to somehow link to you. But these are ways that you can tear apart a debt collector's case, is by those documents, by their own documents. Like a lot of people approach these cases and they're like trying to prove things from documents that they have to try to come up with, find, search, all this. You can beat their case simply by the documents that they provide to you. Let me give you an example of what we found on with Credit One Bank on their bill of sale that they sold to debt collectors. They stated on their bill of sale that you cannot sell this to another debt collector. So what do we always see? We see Resurgent, Sherman Acquisition, Portfolio, buying debt and then selling it to LVNV and all of these other companies. And on their bill of sale, they stated, like on the last paragraph, you cannot sell this debt to another debt collector. The reason why they said that is because they're like, we don't know what that other debt collector is going to do, and we don't want to be responsible for it. You can see all of the lawsuits that you debt collectors have been involved with. We're going to sell it to you, and you don't resell it. And if you decide to resell it, if you want to resell it, you got to give it back to us. You bought it for pennies on the dollar anyway. Give it back to us. They didn't do that. They sued people. Documents are right there with the information right there from one debt collector to them, stating that they couldn't even do it, but because people don't know their rights, because people don't pay attention to those documents, they just get the judgments. Now, let me tell you the reason why people don't pay attention. This will prove to you that I know what I'm talking about. That number one, I've went through this in my life when I was younger, made mistakes. Nobody is perfect, so it's not here to point any fingers at anyone. But I'm going to tell you why they get away with it. And it's going to be, the reason is not going to be what you might expect. The reason why they get away with it is because they know how to get people emotional. They know how to get people emotional. See, when you get emotional, you get irrational. And you can read something, but because of what's going on in your mind, you can't sleep. You got to go to work. Are they going to send a letter to your boss? I had a Secret Service agent that came to our company, and he said, I'm going to lose my license if I don't get this done. We also had a doctor. She came to us. She had tried to start a small business, one of these Amazon businesses, got a loan for I think it was $59,000. It went back to being a doctor, or she was a doctor, but she had got that loan. They were suing her. She said, I cannot work at this hospital if they get this judgment. I'm going to be out of here. So she wasn't even thinking, this is a doctor, a professional. This is the Secret Service agent. These are professionals. And the way that they approach people and get people, the mind gets to shifting. It even happened to me when I was younger. It's like, the first thing is like, you want to know what's the worst that can happen, because that's what we think about, is like, what's the worst that can happen? But when you're thinking about the worst that can happen, it gets you all off balance. And when you can read documents and miss stuff over and over and over again. And that's why I'm so happy, even though with my situation, what I went through, I had to pay $43,000 to get out of that situation. But what it did is it gave me the education to be able to help people like you and people like you on YouTube. It gave me the education. I didn't even know when I was going through that I was going to be able to help so many people with it. And I would say, if I was to go back and take myself back to when that happened, it's to calm myself down. And then automatically, yes, you think we can never take what's the worst going to happen out of us. That's going to be all the time. So accept that, like, what's the worst that can happen? Accept that, just accept it. And then you start working your way back and you start thinking about solutions. And then the next thing, when you start to think about solutions, you start to look and analyze every document that they sent you, everything. And you look at it. When I talked about Santander years ago, that they were, what I found when reviewing the documents, and if you go to my YouTube channel and you type in Santander, go to the creditrepairshop.com, type in Santander. This was a major lawsuit in 36 states. And what I had found, they were faking the applications. People were signing contracts, and you take this contract home with your car, and the contract that they sent to Santander, that the dealers gave to Santander, was a whole different contract. People were paying payments on cars for 5-6 years, and the car was not even paid off. But when they came to sue them, they couldn't even think that way. They were just thinking about the worst that can happen, and then just being emotional, can't sleep, fighting with the spouse, or hiding it from the spouse. Like for me, I couldn't sleep. I was just like, man. And then I told my wife, and I was like, this is what we're facing. My wife just said, we're going to work our way through it. And we did work our way through it. And then I didn't even know, years later, the benefit of me working through it. Number one, getting my wife on the team, that she supported me. So if any wives or husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other, don't get mad at the person. Come together. Come together. And just say, we're going to work our way through it. Just come together. That's what you got to do. That's what me and my wife did. And when you work your way through it, and it calms you down, you look at documents, you look at every potential option that's available for you. Look at what's going on with this court. I don't even want to get political, but look at how Donald Trump has all of these delays and all of this stuff. We had that same opportunity. You look at every potential option, and I'm telling you, it's going to give you a power that you never even dreamed about. So much power. And then that attorney, if you're representing yourself, they're going to be like, this person here, they're going to be wondering, this is what they'll say. How did you know? This is what the judges actually say. This is when we've coached people, this is what a judge says. How did you know that? How did you know that? How in the hell did you know to ask those questions? One client, and you can see this on my website too, this husband and wife getting sued by a payday loan company. We found out that, number one, when they reset the loan, like I'm giving y'all some hot stuff here. Y'all better like this video. When they reset the loan, if you've ever got a payday loan, you know that they could charge sky high interest. In my state, they could charge 2,000% interest. Can you believe that? But check this out, how I caught them. When they cycled the loan in the same month, I don't care what state you live in. When they recycle, so when you have a payday loan, say you can't pay it off in 2 weeks, and they recycle that loan, that interest rate could be over the legal amount. And that's called usury. And they didn't even know that, and went into court. They won. The bailiff winked at them. Said, man, how did y'all even know to put that in your response? They didn't even have to say nothing in court. They just presented the document, their defense, their affirmative defenses against the allegations from the payday loan company. Judge said, this case is dismissed based on this. Judges will look up, they have a computer right there with them. You put your affirmative defense, because see, people are afraid to go into court and speak. They're afraid to go into court and speak, and I understand that. But if you have an affirmative defense, put with your response, plaintiff attorney gets that, judge gets it, they'll look at that. That document speaks for you. Judge sits there and type that in. That is the law. That is the law. And that's what they'll do. And that's what they did for them. There's numerous. You can go to my website to see all of the different examples. You can see court cases dismissed, $28,000, $100,000. There was I got a voicemail, $100,000 original creditor lawsuit dismissed. You got to hear this. Now, I want to make something clear real quick. I'm a businessman. You might be a business person. That's for the YouTube people. We're not talking about running away from stuff that we have to pay. What I'm talking about is if a debt collector buys your debt, or if an original creditor, if there is something that is not legal about the contracts, not legal about the way that they got that loan accepted, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different story. And then even if you owe someone and you have to pay less, I have clients for one of my companies that said, Steve, we cannot pay the full bill. We're going to have to, we got to cut a deal. And we do that because that's how business is. So don't be fooled. Number one, don't be out there wanting to rip off people, because you're going to one day have something that you really need and you want to get paid for it. But understand that we all go through stuff, and then when we go through stuff, there's certain rights that we all have, and that's what I'm expressing here, is that there's certain rights that we all have. I'm not sure here. Oh, I'm not sure what that means. I don't know. Oh, maybe it's people joining. I don't know. But so we're not talking about running away from debt. So I get that a lot on YouTube, where people will say stuff like that. And I don't want people to think that way. I'm new to this, so there's people that I don't know. I accidentally brought some people in, but that's fine. That's fine. So let's see here. We've got a lot of people coming in here. Now, hold on a second. I'm going to end. How you doing? I'm going to end YouTube here, because TikTok is a whole different type of platform. So I'm going to end YouTube here. Anybody want to talk or have any questions about what I've been discussing? All right, to close it all out here, we're going to, because I was on TikTok. This was a strange experiment. So to close out this video here, TikTok is all closed down. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com. Grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters, statute of limitations, debt validation, cease and desist collection activities letter. You can use the one that's appropriate for your situation. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and founder of the CreditRepairShop.com.